cultos ancestrais continuam a ser largamente praticados. Os Ibos que povoam o sul e o sudeste representam 18% da população e, de um modo geral, são cristãos. A Nigéria, dona da segunda maior economia do continente, atrás apenas da África do Sul, é rica em petróleo, responsável por 80% das receitas do governo. Mas a população ainda vive em meio a grandes dificuldades. O grande desafio hoje é diversificar a economia para diminuir a dependência do petróleo. A taxa oficial de desemprego é de 21%. O emprego é hoje a principal demanda do povo da Nigéria, especialmente dos jovens, que representam mais da metade da população e vivem, em sua grande maioria, abaixo da linha da pobreza e frustrados pela falta de trabalho. Presidente, quais são os 3 grandes desafios que o senhor vê para a Nigéria? Quais são os 3 grandes desafios que tiram um pouco o seu sono?
The greater challenge we face now is unemployment. To get opportunities for young people to get job and be creative to fend for themselves. That's the greater challenge we have. If you talk about 3, the next I will mention is power. Why power? It was not just because of the comfort we have, but steady power encourages the growth of small and medium-scale enterprises. The third one, if I will use my own thinking to assess, is the road infrastructure, so that people can move easily. Communication is significant. Though we have a transient security problems, within this period, if you come to Nigeria, they will talk about some terror groups, a local terror group. And when you have this kind of security, it's like maybe you are living in a big house and one snake enters that house. The kind of insecurity we have in this country is not worse than what some other countries have. And people are still investing. And this insecurity is very transient. We are working hard to bring it under control.
A Nigéria tem hoje, segundo as estimativas, algo próximo a 170 milhões de habitantes. O senhor acha que esse crescimento demográfico forte, ele é um problema ou é uma vantagem para a Nigéria?
The Nigerian, because of the rapid growth of the population, you have a population that we have so many young people. 70% of the population are below the age of 30, and about 50% are below the age of 25. So this is a population that these very young people, you provide them schools, of course, jobs, housing, and other basic infrastructure. At the same time, a population could be a liability. The problem we have in Nigeria is worrisome, because yes, we have 167 million people. But if you look at the characteristics of the Nigerian population, the elite, the educated people, and those who have reasonable income have fewer children, probably may have 2, 3, 4, some cases 5. But the people who have more, sometimes 15 or more children, are those who don't even have the means to take care of the children. So those children becomes a liability to society.
We have many reasons for why Nigeria is big as we are, and I think that takes roots in our own tradition, what we call the value of children. I think traditionally, why we did not put emphasis on material wealth, the wealth of the country, the wealth of family is actually the number of children that you have, because it was a predominantly agrarian society and you needed all the labor on the farm. And so for us, it's the number of children that you have. And you take that away again from environmental factors. We experience, and even up to now, a high level of infant mortality because children, like they were born to die, you want to have as many as possible because you are not sure of the child that will be alive when you eventually get old.
The government is telling us that the economy is growing, but we don't have jobs. There's no linear relationship between economic growth and job creation. But the good news is that if the economy is growing, it encourages they encourage investors to come and invest in the country. That's why government is making extra efforts to stimulate job opportunities for young people. So it's very challenging for government. My conviction is that we must begin to think about how we can manage our population.
O senhor acha que tem que ter algum tipo de controle, mas que tenha o consenso da sociedade?
I believe that we must control our population. But in a society like Nigeria, it's extremely difficult for government to prosecute effective population control because we are extremely religious people. Some of us are Christians, some of us are Muslims. The two dominant religions in Nigeria is Christianity and Islam. But I believe that people must be encouraged to produce children that they can sufficiently cater for.
There are hundreds of mosques here in Abuja, but this particular one is called the National Mosque. It's the largest mosque. It can take not less than 15,000 worshippers at a time at full capacity and holding series of meetings, conferences, religious occasions such as marriages, weddings, meetings, and what have you. All religious activities are conducted here. The relationship between Muslims and Christians in Nigeria is very, very excellent. Christians and Muslims to bring about dialoguing, love, cooperation, and understanding. My message to the world as far as Christian-Muslim relationship is concerned is let us not rely on hearsay. Let us not rely on information unverified. Please take time, go to such places, dialogue with the people on ground, get their feelings before you make up your mind to report. For other leaders in other places of religion, rather than using sentiments or allowing people who are looking for power at all costs to misuse our youth, misuse our religion in order to capture power. So our youth, our women, our leaders should definitely understand that they should be preaching peace. They should be preaching dialoguing and understanding. And they should enlighten the youth not to participate in crimes, in violence, for taking amount of money for the selfish end of other politicians or those who are power drunk. Not only in Nigeria, but all over the world.
Every Sunday, this is what we enjoy, but we also come to pray. We come to perform our Catholic Christian duty. You know, every Catholic should go to Mass every Sunday. For us, when we come for Mass, we come to pray to God, to ask Him to help us in our problems, but we also enjoy ourselves. We sing praise to Him. The people you see there, we come from different tribes and different languages. On Sundays, the Christians come to church for service. On Fridays, the Muslims go to the mosque for their worship. But on every other day, we are together. Go to the market, you will see us together. In the schools, in the armed forces, everywhere. And it is not as if the Muslims are on one side and the Christians are on another. No, we are all living together. So the question then is, how can we make sure that we don't allow any question of religion to bring us into conflict? And I believe it is possible if we hold our religion properly, if we don't allow people to use religion for their own agenda. whether it is political or ethnic or economic. There's no other country in the world where you have so many Christians living together with so many Muslims in the same land. We are the country that can show the world how Christians and Muslims can live together with mutual respect, equality, and not tolerated minorities. Because I don't want anybody to tolerate me. I am in my nation, and I stand on my feet, and I talk as loudly as I can, and I allow other people to talk too, and talk very loudly. And the common ground we have are very important common grounds: belief in God, conviction about honesty, about justice, about compassion and concern for the poor and the needy, about living together in peace and harmony. It is in both Christianity and Islam. If we pursue this, we have enough work to keep us busy for 2,000 years.
Nigeria is a multicultural society, multilingual society, multi-religious society, multi-ethnic, and as a result of this, it is a very vibrant, dynamic, and tumultuous society. The place is in turmoil, always boiling. Each ethnic group tries to appeal to primordial sentiments, to religious sentiments. These are used as instruments to advance political interests in the country. Okay. And so everything is seen from the narrow ethnic perspective. And this does not make room for progress, development. And that is the reason why Nigeria is seen as the sick baby of Africa.
Every language group, every tribe have their unique features. They have their unique dances, they have their unique food, they have their indigenous way they do things. So this could be exploited, especially for political reasons. But in Nigeria, frankly speaking, I come from an extremely minority part of the country, I realize now that people from minority parts of states are winning governorship elections, even when they contest against people from majority tribes within the states.
As a journalist, you have to mediate through all these different conflicting point of views in order to present the facts of the case, in order to present what is a fair and objective assessment of whatever is going on. And as journalists, it's so difficult for you to present what your readers will find acceptable. The best way to do it is when you provide a platform for all the competing ideas and point of views to be aired. Well, certainly it does present some challenges because the three major languages of Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa also contain or capture a worldview and a way of seeing things of the world. So as such, people of these different groups see things differently, their cultures are different, but certainly as journalists, we do face challenges which we overcome if we stick by the usual ethics of journalism, in which case you have to get a sense of balance, of fairness to all sides, and also try to be objective. So it is when we succeed in doing this that we don't run into conflict. But comparatively, we do have freedom, comparative to, for example, the military era. But even during the military era, Nigerian journalists were very aggressive, very active in pushing the boundaries of press freedom and ensuring that they air the opinion and views of people.
Boko Haram, que significa a educação ocidental é um sacrilégio, é o nome de um movimento radical islâmico que surgiu no norte da Nigéria em 2011 e tem espalhado o terror pelo país. Em 2012, os ataques promovidos pelo grupo deixaram mais de 1.000 mortos. Os alvos preferenciais são igrejas cristãs e prédios do governo ou de organismos internacionais. Em 2011, o escritório da ONU na capital, Abuja, foi atingido por um carro-bomba. Muita gente acredita que o Boko Haram tem vínculos com a Al-Qaeda. Um dos maiores desafios dos líderes religiosos na Nigéria é desvincular as ações do Boko Haram da imagem do Islã, uma religião que prega a convivência harmoniosa entre os povos. O seu governo, na sua opinião, está ganhando a guerra contra o Boko Haram?
Of course, if you compare, we still have the issues, but definitely it's coming down. Definitely it's coming down. And I believe we'll get over it. It's quite unfortunate. We never expected, we never prepared that we could get local terror group that will go in for suicide bombing.
As rivalidades entre os Hausás, os Ibos e os Yorubás acirraram-se depois da independência. Em 1966, alguns generais da etnia Ibo deram um golpe de Estado e assassinaram o primeiro-ministro Abubakar Tafawa Balew. A reação dos Hausás foi imediata. Num contragolpe, colocaram no poder o tenente-coronel Yakubu Gowon. 30.000 Ibos que viviam no norte foram mortos em seguida. O caos tomou conta do país. Em maio de 1967, o coronel Ojukwu, um Ibo, anunciou a criação da República da Biafra e a sua separação do resto da Nigéria. Foi o começo de uma guerra civil que durou 3 anos. O conflito terminou em janeiro de 1970, com um saldo de aproximadamente 3 milhões de mortos, a maior parte devido à fome e a doenças. A sangrenta guerra civil deixou muitas marcas e cicatrizes na Nigéria e até hoje é um fantasma que assombra o país. Como é que o senhor vê hoje a unidade nacional da Nigéria? O senhor acha que a unidade nacional está segurada ou que problemas de secessão podem voltar a ocorrer? Existe essa ameaça?
Nigeria gained independence in 1960. We had the first set of elections, 59-60. The 59 elections that gave rise to the independence. Then military intervention. We fought, after that, civil war. Nigeria experienced a civil war that lasted for about 30 months. And of course, it's a regrettable war, but we are lucky that it's passed. Naturally, after fighting a civil war, some parts of the country felt the war more than other parts. Personally, myself, my father's house was burnt down during the Civil War. Some of our peers from other parts of the country never experienced that. People lost their properties and relations. That feeling, even though it is still in the memory of the adults, but that feeling is almost going. Even though sometimes people make, in their communications talk about the Civil War, the relics of the Civil War, but to me, assessing the behavior of the people now, I believe that Nigerians have put the Civil War behind.
And I hope nothing close to it ever happens again. So in that larger sense, it's important to me because it's so central to my history as a Nigerian, but also because in a very personal way, it's the history of my family. My grandfathers died in that war, and all my father's books were burned when the soldiers occupied the university town. So I wanted to understand it. I wanted to know a bit more about it. And I also realized that my generation of Nigerians don't really know very much about that period in our histories. In Nigeria, I think what has changed since the military left or rather since our dictator died, which sort of forced the military to end in 1998, is that there's a lot more cultural production. So in music, in film, even theater, and in books as well.
Na Nigéria não é apenas a população que cresce a taxas impressionantes, o cinema também. De 20 anos para cá, Nollywood, Hollywood com N, se firmou como um dos mais ativos polos de produção cinematográfica do mundo. Lança em média 1.200 filmes por ano. De um modo geral, são filmes feitos em poucos dias com baixíssimo orçamento. Pode faltar dinheiro, mas sobra vontade. Diferente das megaproduções americanas, feitas em cenários deslumbrantes e estúdios sofisticados, o cinema nigeriano trata de temas comuns: o dia a dia da população nas grandes cidades, as diferenças entre as religiões e os efeitos do crescimento econômico do país. Talvez esteja aí a chave do sucesso de Nollywood. Toda semana são lançados dezenas de novos títulos e milhares de DVDs inundam as lojas, mercados e pontos de venda em todo o país. Cada disco custa em média $2, um preço acessível para boa parte dos nigerianos. O senhor vê o petróleo, que é o grande patrimônio hoje em dia da Nigéria, como que ele pode, ao mesmo tempo, ser um impulsionador para o desenvolvimento do país como um todo e a geração de emprego?
The petroleum industry does not employ much because it's a high-tech industry. It is only the upstream operations of the oil industry when they are doing their seismic surveys, when they are drilling, they employ a number of hands. But after the drilling, the pumping of the oil is mechanically done. And that is one of the reasons why we are now encouraging the downstream activities of the petroleum industry, because that is the aspect that can create jobs. The areas of refining of the crude oil, the area of fertilizer production, and other petrochemicals, including cooking gas production. We are also investing in agriculture. Because in Nigeria, the agri sector employs more people. Luckily, we also have some solid minerals that we are not yet maximizing. Petroleum, per se, employs very, very few people.
We emphasize decent employment, decent work, in line with the expectations of the ILO, the International Labour Organization, campaigns and preaches decent work. Just where people have their fundamental human rights secured, just where people can say, we have a job today, tomorrow that job will still remain, a job in which they can largely meet some of the expectations of their family, a job that is in a good environment, a good condition, a job in which freedom of association to a trade union is accepted, where negotiation can take place and collective agreement are reached. These type of jobs are what we expect to find.
Músico, excêntrico, pioneiro do Afrobeat, agitador, Fela Anikulapo Kuti, ou simplesmente Fela, é um capítulo à parte na história da música e da política da Nigéria. Filho de uma das principais ativistas políticas da África e de um pastor protestante, Fela tornou-se músico profissional na Inglaterra, onde foi estudar medicina em 1958. Depois de uma temporada nos Estados Unidos na década de 70, Fela Kuti voltou influenciado pelo Black Power e pelos Panteras Negras, movimentos que lutavam contra a discriminação racial. Suas músicas passaram a ter, então, uma mensagem política e social muito forte, e seu nome passou a ser sinônimo do Afrobeat, um gênero que combina a música iorubá com o jazz e o funk, com muita percussão e vocais. As críticas de Fela Kuti à corrupção desagradaram profundamente a elite nigeriana e começou a perseguição contra ele. Ele foi preso várias vezes e seus shows passaram a ser reprimidos. O episódio mais grave aconteceu em 1978. Soldados do Exército invadiram a casa de Fela, onde também funcionava um clube noturno e a gravadora da banda, e destruíram tudo. O cantor foi selvagemente espancado e a mãe dele, a ativista política Funmilayo Ransome Kuti, morreu ao ser atirada pela janela do segundo andar da casa. A reação de Fela Kuti foi chocante. Ele enviou o caixão com o corpo da mãe para a casa do general Olusegun Obasanjo, que governava o país. Pouco depois, ele criou um partido político, o Movimento do Povo, ou MOP, da sigla em inglês. Tentou disputar a presidência da República, mas sua candidatura foi rejeitada pelos tribunais. Defensor da poligamia, Fela chegou a ter 28 esposas ao mesmo tempo. Morreu em 1997, aos 58 anos, em decorrência da AIDS. Um dos filhos dele, Femi Kuti, também é músico e ativista político.
Now, I think because of all the work he did politically through the music, many people are very outspoken because for one decade easily he was the only voice in Nigeria speaking politics for the people. People were too scared in the 70s, especially when the military were in power. So the Afrobeat gave Nigeria especially a voice to be as outspoken as we are right now.
Brasil e Nigéria são dois países que têm muito em comum. Nós, brasileiros, devemos à Nigéria boa parte da nossa cultura, da nossa identidade. Mas o senhor acha que as relações entre Brasil e Nigéria estão num ponto adequado ou ainda há muito que caminhar?
Brazil and Nigeria, we have quite a number of things in common, but we really are not exploiting that the way we should. Even at the level of cultural exchange for the purpose of tourism, we're supposed to do better than we are doing. Those are low-hanging fruits that we can easily capture. Presently, we're not doing enough to exploit that relationship, but we have agreed to now do more. And there are a number of areas we can really work together. So I think we are now more focused than before, but I totally agree with you. We have not exploited that cultural and historical ties the way we should have done. But now we want to do that.
Para os Yorubás, Ifé é uma cidade sagrada. É o umbigo do mundo. Aqui foi criada a terra. Aqui foi criado o homem. Depois, os Yorubás se espalharam por todo o sudoeste da Nigéria, por boa parte do Benin e por alguns países vizinhos. Muitos deles, como escravos, foram para as Américas e principalmente para o Brasil. Os Yorubás levaram da África para o outro lado do Atlântico sua cultura e sua religião, seus mitos e seus costumes, sua língua e sua música. Levaram o seu jeito de ser. E foi com ele que construíram também o Brasil.
A conexão entre a Yorubalândia e a Bahia, principalmente, era tão forte que se falava no chamado Correio Nagu, que se diziam que a cada semana chegavam barcos do Golfo do Benin até a Baía de Todos os Santos, levando notícias de cá para lá e de lá para cá. E essa relação intensa foi tamanha que quando o Brasil ficou independente, declarou a independência em 1822, foi o Reino de Lagos Yorubano que mandou os primeiros embaixadores para parabenizar a nova república, o novo governo do Brasil na época. Havia inclusive cidades como a antiga cidade de Quetu, que foi praticamente esvaziada. Quase que 1 milhão de habitantes vendidos como escravos.
We are Yoruba people living in Ilara here. Some of us are living in Ketu. And Ilara and Ketu, we are one. Ilara is in Nigeria and Ketu is in Benin Republic. There is a cordial relationship between Yoruba people living in Lara and the Yoruba people living in Ketu, Benin Republic.
As fronteiras traçadas pelas potências europeias deixaram um legado cruel para a África. A Nigéria é um exemplo disso. Os povos Hausás e Yorubás são separados pelas fronteiras artificiais deixadas pelo colonialismo. Uma parte deles vive na Nigéria e outra parte nos países vizinhos. Além disso, foi necessário criar mecanismos para equilibrar a influência das diferentes etnias dentro da Nigéria. Um deles é o revezamento nos principais cargos da República, a começar pelo de presidente.
Eriwo ya, eriwo fún ọmọ ìṣòro ọpẹ́ ẹ̀ńlẹ́ o. Àtótó arére àkòyí bàbá mọ̀gánà o. Bójò bá rọ̀ ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ẹyẹ oko kì í dún. Kẹ́yẹ mọ́mọ́dún ẹ̀yà àjẹgbòde. Àdọ́pẹ́ nífọ̀ kátàǹkótó gbogbo ẹyẹ oko ẹ̀yà adákẹ́. Gbogbo ìṣòro ọpẹ́ mo forí balẹ̀ kí tó kọrin o. Gbogbo ìṣòro ọpẹ́ mo forí balẹ̀ kí tó kọrin o. Mela o.
A 200 quilômetros de Lagos, em Ifé, fica a Universidade Obafemi Awolowo. Criada em 1962, ela é uma das universidades mais conceituadas da África e recebe estudantes de vários países. O campus fica no meio de uma reserva ambiental belíssima. 60 mil alunos frequentam os cursos oferecidos em 13 faculdades.
Os Hausa, que é do norte da Nigéria, por cima do rio Níger, grandes rivais do reino Yoruba. E os dois se encontraram novamente no Brasil, principalmente na Bahia, onde eles tiveram melhores relações de frente à escravidão e formaram uma grande aliança que culminou na revolta dos Malês de 1835 na Bahia, e também aquilo foi o que lançou o movimento de retorno à África.
Os números não são rigorosos. Alguns dizem que 2 milhões de habitantes dos territórios da Nigéria, do Benin, do Togo e de Gana foram levados como escravos para o Brasil. Alguns dizem que foram 3,5 milhões. Em meados do século XIX, com o aumento da pressão pelo fim da escravatura, milhares de africanos conseguiram comprar sua liberdade no Brasil e voltaram para seus países de origem. Ficaram conhecidos como os retornados. Estima-se que naquela época cerca de 3 mil ex-escravos fizeram o caminho de volta e retornaram do Brasil para a Nigéria. Em Lagos, a integração não foi fácil. Eles eram vistos como estrangeiros, afinal, haviam adotado novos hábitos no Brasil, praticavam o catolicismo e, muitas vezes, vestiam-se como europeus. Muitos dos retornados aproveitaram seus conhecimentos do outro lado do Atlântico e começaram a fazer negócios com comerciantes brasileiros.
My name is Sergio Babatunde de Souza Marques. I am about 4 generations down of Brazilian descendants. The 4 generation back that I know of is that of my great-grandfather Jacob Joao de Souza Marques.
One way or the other, we still have a memory of our Brazilian roots. So, in other words, we are Nigerians by birth, but Brazilians by origin. So that's just plain truth.
It's a beautiful community, and we interrelate, we intermarry. It's really, really beautiful. We link up. We also have link with the Brazilian consulate that is also so warm to us.
O Brazilian Quarter, ou o quarteirão brasileiro na Ilha de Lagos, foi o principal porto de chegada dos escravos que voltavam do Brasil. Hoje vivem aqui inúmeros descendentes dos retornados. Nas ruas é quase impossível encontrar alguém que fale português, mas os sobrenomes não escondem a origem. Não é difícil esbarrar num Silva ou num Souza. As casas de estilo colonial brasileiro dão a sensação de que se está na Bahia. Elas mantêm vivas do outro lado do Atlântico lembranças do Brasil. Lagos. O nome da cidade foi dado pelos navegadores portugueses que chegaram à região no final do século XV, 4 séculos antes dos ingleses. Hoje, cerca de 9 milhões de pessoas vivem em Lagos, o grande centro cultural e econômico da Nigéria, que continua crescendo num ritmo muito forte. Nos últimos 15 anos, praticamente dobrou de população. O problema é que a infraestrutura da cidade não acompanhou a explosão demográfica. Nada simboliza mais esse crescimento desordenado do que o trânsito. As largas avenidas estão permanentemente engarrafadas. Pedestres, motos, carros, vans e ônibus transformam calçadas e ruas em formigueiros humanos. Para quem vem de fora, a primeira impressão é de um caos sem fim. Mas os habitantes da cidade lidam bem com a situação. Parecem se guiar por uma ordem urbana invisível, aceita por todos, em que cada um sabe a hora de ceder e a hora de avançar. Quase não há acidentes, brigas ou confusões. Os países emergentes têm um peso crescente de relações com a África, como a Índia, o Brasil, a Coreia do Sul e principalmente a China. O senhor acha que isso dá uma margem de manobra maior para os países africanos? Isso ajuda os países africanos?
In Brazil, what is happening in China, what is happening in India, is quite encouraging. And of course, even among the Asian tigers, it's quite encouraging. And that is one of the things that make us believe that in the next 10 years, looking at the political stability that we are getting in a number of African states, and with political stability, the people in government will have more focus, and you will really see that the changes will be quite astronomical. A country like Malawi, for example, Malawi was a country that couldn't even have enough food to eat. They were almost getting food from donations. But now they're exporting. And a number of African countries have that kind of environment. And our political class also think about their country.
A Comunidade do Desenvolvimento da África Ocidental, a CEDEAO, o senhor acredita que ela vem sendo um instrumento eficiente para o desenvolvimento da África Ocidental?
You know, ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States, at the time that ECOWAS was founded, it was mainly economic. And of course, it was not political. But the whole of the West African states, made up of 15 countries, have a common market now. Any good that is produced in one of these countries can easily move to the other. You don't need a visa to move from one ECOWAS country to another. So in terms of stimulating the economic activities, we have succeeded very, very well. But presently, we feel that you cannot talk about economy without a stable political environment. And we believe that ECOWAS will not be limited to economic issues alone, without also looking at political issues. And we are doing that because the whole of Africa has been democratized to a reasonable level.
O senhor acha que esse novo momento da África de paz, de convivência pacífica, de normalidade democrática na grande maioria dos países veio para ficar ou ainda é cedo para afirmar isso?
Look at the past few years back. Most African states were under colonial rule. A few years back, Nigeria gained independence in 1960, Ghana in 1958. Quite a number of African countries in 1960, then early 60s. Were under colonial rule. After that, most African states were under military dictators because the first set of politicians that took over from the colonial masters were overthrown by military dictators that took over almost all African countries, including Nigeria. But presently, most African states are being governed by democratically elected. So Africa is actually consolidating politically. And the method of electing our leaders too, we are improving. It's getting better and better. So there's quite some hope. I believe in the next 10 years, we'll have a different Africa, very, very different Africa, in terms of political stability and electoral process.
O senhor acredita que o século XXI é o século da África?
Yes, I believe, because if you look at the early histories of the world, I believe that the world is cyclic. Africa didn't do too badly in prehistory, because even those of us who are Christians, even when we read the Bible, we read about countries like Ethiopia. When I learned history, when I was in primary school, I learned about civilization. They said that civilization started in Egypt. So you really see that as at that time, but along the line, some went wrong and was left behind. But I think there is another movement that is coming up. And I believe that Africa will begin to compete with the rest of the world. Africa will get out of this kind of bad image. Presently, especially the Western media, if they are presenting Africa, they will show you very poor people, children suffering from all kinds of diseases, people that cannot take care of themselves, who have nowhere to live, and so on. Most of these ugly images will go, and you begin to see an Africa that can take care of itself, be able to produce things they need, and begin to play a key role in the world.
When people say, oh, I've come to Africa, and I say, where did you go? And they're like, Senegal and Kenya, and I'm like, no, you have to come to Nigeria. Because Nigeria is the real Africa. And of course, I say this with the arrogance of the Nigerian, but I think there's a sense in which Nigeria, in its incredible diversity, in just the mass of its population, even its land mass, and there's a sense of Nigerians are people who are very much about doing. Nigerians handle adversity in the most incredible ways. So you see people who have suffered greatly and they just move on. They strive, you know. And yeah, so I mean, clearly I love my country, but also I think that there's so much I want to change, so much we can do better.
The cradle starts from here, the land of Oduduwa. And this is why I'm coming up with this song for you. I tell the people that we are Africans. We are Africans, born in Nigeria. Atoluwalawa Oma Oduduwa. Meaning that we're African born in this Nigeria and we belong to God, but we emanate from the land of Oduduwa. We are Africans born in Nigeria. Toluwalawa o Oma Oduduwa. Toluwalawa o Oma Oduduwa.
Presidente, muito obrigado pela entrevista.